It's 9:30. We will call the salary board meeting to order. That's okay. And we'll begin with a roll call, please. That's right.
Good morning, Commissioner Niederer.
Here.
Commissioner Bashi. I'm here. Commissioner Eichelberger. Yes. Controller Whitcomb.
Here. All right. We will open it up for public comment. We are in the salary board meeting at this time. If there's anyone online, please use the raise your hand feature. Desiree, is anyone online? And
no one has used that feature.
Anyone in the audience want to make a public comment at this meeting? Appears not. We will go on to then approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 3.
I'll second. It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next up, the salary board actions.
I'll make a motion to approve all the salary board actions as presented.
I'll second. It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Is there any other business to come before the salary board?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. 2 minutes. 2 minutes now.
I'll really stick around now.
We will go into the commissioners meeting and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will call the Board of Commissioners meeting to order and begin with a roll call.
Commissioner Niederer.
Here.
Commissioner Bashi.
I'm here.
Commissioner Eichelberger.
Present.
All right. Next, we have public comment on non-agenda items. And is there anyone online, Desiree?
No one online.
No one online. Okay, we have some folks in the audience today. Mr. Cobb, I see you put up your hand to make public comment.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the April 30th BOE meeting. At that point in time, I requested some information whether the county should be doing the 2% statistical recount by hand based on the equipment certifications. And I was hoping to hear something in response to that request. And I sent a follow-up email and I haven't heard anything. And I was wondering whether a response will be forthcoming or not.
So, Mr. Cobb, it is the position of our solicitor for the Bureau of Elections that question has been answered to you based upon the procedures that we've outlined in our process, and it had been answered in prior meetings. So there will not be a response coming from this board at this time. If you want to come pose that at the next BOE meeting, whether we can provide you with that, we can direct you to the minutes of the meeting where that was answered. Perhaps that would be helpful.
That would be helpful.
Okay.
Because I'm not aware that it has been answered. And then my last comment, which is again a question, I apologize, I'm going to go real quick. The last meeting was inspirational. I'd also requested some information about what authorized representatives can do and whether the board would issue or provide some feedback as to what authorized representatives for candidates may observe and participate in, so that we can eliminate any disagreements once we get into the election.
Are you asking a Board of Elections question?
Yes, I am, but there is no Board of Elections meeting.
September.
Yeah,
I think there's a meeting.
Yeah,
And you can ask them at that time. This is a Board of Commissioners meeting.
I understand.
Then
I understand. However, the last
meetings in September, Board of Elections, you can ask it at that time.
well, thank you. However, there's a lot of work to be done, as I'm sure everyone here knows, between now and the election time. And the last Board of Election meeting was canceled with minimal information. So this conversation couldn't happen at the appropriate meeting.
I think there's plenty of time between now and September 18 for some questions to be answered by the Board of Elections.
I would love to have that happen. Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment at this time? Mr. Lanciani?
Hello. Good morning. Earlier this week, I sent an email to the Director of Elections and to the Board of Commissioners. And that email had registrants who had moved to other states and voted in other states. And what I was asking is that you remove those. There's 1,031 of them, and that you remove those from the voter registration list in Cumberland County, since they moved them or in our voting in other states. I want to point out that I put an attachment to that email, and that attachment had a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet information came from the National Change of Address. It came from the county voters list. It came from the Department of State's new voters list, and their short lists and information. And on that spreadsheet, you have plenty of information. You have their names, you have their date of birth, you have their address, you have what state they moved to, you have when they registered, you have their identification numbers. So you have plenty of information there that you can pretty easily, if you direct your elections bureau to do this, to take them off of our registration list here in Cumberland County. And I just want to say, it's the commissioners from the Pennsylvania Election Code that are responsible for maintaining adequate and updated election lists. And I hope that this will help you to be able to do that. And I hope that we can get these people off our lists. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Lanciani. We are in receipt of that email and that information. Just as an FYI, when we receive files at the county, we do have to send those to security to be reviewed. We plan to discuss that at our next executive session with the BOE.
If I may, the group that documented all that information and correlated it was a group by the name of Eagle AI. And I think that's in the letter that I sent.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Any other public comment at this time? Hearing none, we will roll into the consent agenda. Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. The consent agenda is agenda items 4 through 10, and it is comprised of a list of routine items that do not appear to be controversial in nature and which seem to not require any additional discussion. If discussion is desired on any of the particular items by a member of the Board of Commissioners or a member of the public, now would be the time to make that request.
I'd like to ask that item 5, the personal transactions, be separated.
With the exception of agenda item number 5, Commissioners, I would request approval of the consent agenda.
I will move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I can say.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 So prior to moving into the regular agenda, agenda item number 5, which is approval of personnel transactions. Commissioners, I would request approval of the personnel transactions.
I will move to approve the personnel transaction.
I will second. Now we can have discussion. Are there certain items on the roster, Gary, that you wish to have removed?
As I notified the board last week, I'd like the children and youth hiring to be separated out. I'm not in favor of that at this time. The other items I don't have a lot of problems.
So it's all based upon children and youth hires that you're objecting?
Yeah.
All right, so noted. I'm going to call the question. All in favor of approving the personnel transactions, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
We're doing two separate actions, correct?
No,
No.
I think the motion was for all personnel
All personnel
actions,
actions.
and if you have an objection to the children and youth matter, you can indicate that
Okay,
in your vote, that you're voting for matters except the children and youth.
I can indicate that is part of the same vote. It's
Yes.
not a separate action. Okay, I've indicated what I'm opposed to.
Okay,
So
but otherwise it's acceptable to you.
I'm in favor of the others at this time. I'm not in favor of the children at this time.
So,
That's fine.
okay. We'll proceed.
Okay, so Commissioners,
We have to call a vote on that?
Oh, we did.
We did, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's all right, thanks, just want to make sure that we move that through.
We have voted in approval and Gary thanks.
okay, so Commissioners, that takes us to the regular agenda, and we'll start with agenda item number 11. I'll call on Michaela Kitchen to discuss and request approval for the CDBG and Home Annual Action Plan for the 2024 program year.
Good morning, everybody. This item is regarding the annual action plan that covers the period from July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. This period is known as program year 2024 and is year 5 of Cumberland County's 2020 to 2024 5-year consolidated plan. In program year 2024, HUD allocated $1,254,163 of CDBG funds and $497,075 in home grant funds to the county. CDBG and home funds may be used only for activities located within Cumberland County, and as in past years, these funds are spent for projects and activities benefiting the entirety of Cumberland County residents, as well as targeted area benefit activity investments in communities and neighborhoods where economic support is most needed, as evidenced by higher concentrations of minorities, low and moderate income persons, and aged and declining housing stock. I've invited some people from M28 Ministries to speak a bit about their project Esther's House, which is our recommendation for the use of home funds this year. Please, you would like to describe your project?
Hi, I'm Jimmy Shambach. I'm the director of M28 Ministry. Thank you for having us today, and I want to thank Michaela and Mary for also partnering with us and helping us through the application process. M28 is a nonprofit organization that focuses on enabling people to find long-term sobriety through authentic community, unwavering support, and practical needs assistance. And so over the 13 years we've existed, our organization has helped people stay clean and sober a year or more continuously, 60% of the time. The national average is about 4%. So we feel like we've done really meaningful work in that sphere. And why we're here today is because of the housing initiative called Esther's House that we are looking to do. And so good, affordable, safe housing is very meaningful to individuals in recovery. And so with our program, we will be using that to provide good, affordable housing to families and individuals in that situation so that they continue their recovery and move forward with their lives. And so we are going to be purchasing a 4-unit apartment complex in Mechanicsburg. And so the funds used from the home program will go directly to helping those in Cumberland County rebuild their lives and transform for the better.
Thank you. Are there any questions of gentlemen on the board? No? Okay, Michaela?
As the lead entity responsible for the preparation of the annual action plan and the administration of Cumberland County CDBG home program grant funds, the Cumberland County Housing Redevelopment Authorities are seeking approval from the Board of Commissioners on the allocation plan that has been outlined and advertised to the public.
And Mr. Liker, were you going to make comments at this time?
He's on a separate item.
Okay, okay. We then the discussion and approval of the program year 2024 CDBG and home annual allocation plan is up for approval. Is there any discussion or any questions that we want to ask of Michaela at this time?
For approval of the program as indicated.
I second. It's been moved and seconded. I am going to raise my concern. We were made aware yesterday of some delinquency in financial reporting that I am hopeful that the redevelopment authority can address quickly for us. And I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela.
Thank you.
So that does take us to the contracts and grants, and I'll turn the meeting over to Angela Smyser to cover those.
Thanks, Stacy.
Hang on a second. Wait, no, I'm sorry, I jumped. We need to do 12.
That's
12 is the
okay.
start of the
Okay.
contract section. So Michaela has some other items to discuss with us.
Okay.
Can't get rid of me yet.
No, we just want to make sure you get your time. That's.
Okay. This item is regarding DCED's Home ARP Supportive Services Program. Cumberland County already administers home ARP funds, and this application would be for additional funds to support organizations that are already familiar with the requirements and have demonstrated a need within their programs. Activities under this grant will give priority to homeless and at-risk of homelessness populations within the county. We plan to apply for $550,000 to be spent within the next 24 months immediately following the date of award, which includes activities in mental health services, housing search and counseling services, transportation, case management, and financial assistance costs. 6 providers across the county are included in this application, including CCHRA itself, who employs the local coordinated entry coordinator established by the continuum of care in the area. So we are seeking approval.
So that's the ARP one. You can
Yes.
talk about the CHOTA one as well, unless the commissioners have any questions about the ARP grant application.
I do not.
Okay, so the second item regarding DCE Home CHOTO operating funds. These funds are used by the Community Housing Development Organization, or CHOTO, to further administer eligible housing activities in the area. However, the funds will only be able to use in projects where the CHOTO is the developer, sponsor, and or owner of the home assisted housing. To speak on the use of these funds a little more, I'd like to turn it over to Gary.
Good morning, Commissioners. Gary Lanker, Executive Director, Tri-County Housing. We greatly appreciate and value the opportunity to continue to serve as a community housing development organization here in Cumberland County. This particular project that we were able to receive this funding on is the Normandy Lofts project, which is a rental housing development in Southampton Township, right outside of Shippensburg Borough. And the Department of Community Economic Development, by virtue of our involvement as a nonprofit, gives us access to these funds. So we greatly appreciate your support in that. I have prepared some information, if I may approach the commissioners and share with you, that you may review at a later time on many other activities that we have ongoing here in Cumberland County. We're very appreciative also of working with Mary Kuhn and the Housing and Redevelopment Authority on a number of levels. Other projects that we currently have going in your county, right now in New Cumberland Borough, we have a substantial rehabilitation occurring at 215 Utah Avenue. When we acquired that blighted property, we kind of fell into a positive situation because there was an adjoining lot, a large lot, part of the property that we were able to subdivide, and we are going to build a 2-story duplex townhouse. We just received last month from the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency $400,000 of fair funds for that particular project in New Cumberland Borough. The funds that we get from you all and the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, the federal funds, the home program, we can't do projects alone with just that funding. So we work very diligently and seeking other funding, such as the fair funds. And in addition to that, we just put an application into PADCD under the Neighborhood Assistance Program, the tax credit program. And we have received almost $200,000 of commitments from area banks, Wells Fargo, Mid-Penn Bank, M&T, FNB, and First Commonwealth are the lenders that have committed that $200,000. That has to be approved by DCED. We will not know definitely on that approval of that application until December. But I only share that with you because we do seek the funding to get these projects done in a number of areas from another providers of that type of funding. The other project that we're ready to break ground on is a single-family home on an infill lot, excuse me, in Lemoyne Borough. It's a site that we had acquired from the redevelopment authority a number of years ago, where a blighted property stood. And through conservatorship, the redevelopment authority acquired that and tore that property down. We're most anxious to get that started. And lastly, I will share with you the partnership that you're approving our funding for today or supporting is with Woda Cooper, a very highly regarded low-income housing tax credit developer from Columbus, Ohio. We are also in conversation and working with Woda Cooper to develop the Tyco site. They have that under contract with the rec board and are looking to work with us. They will be hoping to do an approximate 50-unit affordable rental housing project, but the site is large enough that they are willing to provide at little or no cost to us a site large enough that we can build 8 townhouses for home ownership. So it's rare that you see rental housing and home ownership in the same project, but that's something will be coming before you at some time in the future and seeking assistance on, but I just want to share with you it's in the works. So lastly, I will tell you, our organization in May received our HUD designation as a certified home buyer counseling agency. We work in concert with Mary's Shop. We do offer a once a month, one Saturday a month, 8-hour class in person at our office at 201 West Front Street. And I will share with you, we typically get between 20 and 30 attendees every month. And there are folks from this county that do attend. So we supplement what the Housing Redevelopment Authority is doing and offering that program by offering that Saturday class. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you our activities.
Mr. Lanker, I do have a couple of questions. On the project that you're doing outside of Shippensburg, I've heard that housing in Shippensburg is really strained, rental housing. So thank you for helping assist with that. But do you see that as well? Are you do you anticipate this being just a drop in the bucket or meaningfully helping to try and absorb some of that demand that exists out there?
That's a tough question. It certainly is meaningful, but the need is very great out there. We are in a housing crisis in this country and all over. And Cumberland County is no stranger to that with the growth that's occurred over the last couple of years. But I think it will be meaningful. And I do think that following up this Tyco project here in the borough would be exceptionally meaningful.
Yeah, that would, and it is, you're right. It's the first, we've been pressured all across the county. It's the first time that I've heard of it being as bad in Shippensburg as it apparently has become. So thank you for that, for those projects. We look forward to them.
Gary, you mentioned about the Tyco site, and I know that's languished under some legal issues. So is that all cleared away?
That's all cleared up. All the environmental issues have been resolved and certifications provided by the Department of Environmental Protection. Again, we're not the lead on that. Woda Cooper is, but they have invited us to participate in preliminary discussions as a nonprofit. But yes, to answer your question, that is
To your other project, you mentioned quite a number of financial institutions, but all of them have experience in very similar types of arrangements. So I imagine you're pretty confident that that's good.
Yeah, we are in the budget, in the Commonwealth's budget that was just passed. The neighborhood assistance tax program was almost doubled, I think from 36 million to almost 100 million. That is a tool that we do use extensively. You know, the lenders are obligated to support affordable housing, one avenue through the Community Reinvestment Act that they must meet, but that tax credit, it triples the contribution that they give. So it really is meaningful, and we do try to take full advantage of that.
That's great news. Having experience in that from my prior banking and being involved immensely in CRA, it makes a huge difference for the financial institutions. And it's great that local financial institutions are able to do that. Oftentimes larger ones swoop in and get a lot of tax credits. So
Penn Bank, as a local lender, has been extremely supportive of our organization, and they do fund our homebuyer counseling program extensively. So we appreciate all the folks that are involved, but you know, they are a key local lender that we greatly value.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions of Mr. Lanker or Michaela, I would ask for approval of those two grants from the Housing Redevelopment Authority.
I move to approve.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so
Thank
much.
Thank you.
See you at noon, Michaela. We'll see you at noon. Michaela, I started the morning meetings. Yeah.
Moving on to agenda item 13, I will call on James Brandt to discuss some donations for the Department of Public Safety. Good morning, James.
Good morning. I was having some issues with my webcam microphone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Great, great. The Department of Public Safety is asking for the Board of Commissioners approval to receive sponsorship money to be used in offsetting the expenses to host the annual LEPC Summit being held in October. Once again, we'll be bringing together area businesses, first responders, emergency management, and elected officials who will be able to network with their partners while learning how to be better prepared for an emergency. We are appreciative of these agencies in supporting the mission of the LEPC. The Summit Planning Committee has received payments from Capital Blue Cross and MCM Consulting Group in the amount of $1,000 each for gold sponsorship, and payments from Classic Dry Cleaners and Laundromats and Triangle Fire Protection in the amount of $250 each for bronze sponsorships. Again, we ask for your approval to receive the money to be applied towards the LEPC Summit. Thank you.
Any questions for James?
Nothing. None for me.
I'll move for acceptance of the donations as outlined.
I'll second. It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 14, I will call on Kim Linton to discuss the contracts for aging and community services. Good morning, Kim.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. We are requesting approval for contract for SIL Opportunities. It's the lead coordinator for the Aging and Disability Resource Centers for Area 9. That consists of Adams, Cumberland, Dauphin, York, Mifflin, Juniata, Perry, and Franklin counties. We will receive the funds from the state, and then we will pass through these funds to the SIL in the amount of $139,725. The second one we're asking approval for is Maranatha. They provide financial case management counseling to our clients in the Homeless Assistance Program. They will receive $50 per client per month with a max amount of $4,000 per year for the fiscal year. The next one for approval is Menahaven. They provide adult daycare to our older adults at a rate of $50.04 per day. And this is an increase of 9%. And the allowable increase is 4.5%. However, we had to ask for a waiver from the state, which they approved because Menahaven has not had an increase since 2021. And the last one we're asking approval for is Safe Harbor. And they provide traditional or transitional housing services, which allow homeless individuals to have supportive living arrangements to prepare them to live independently. And the contract amount for the fiscal year is $39,000.
Any questions for Kim?
Kim, I noticed that both of these contracts were, well, two of the contracts, Maranatha and Safe Harbor, are slightly reduced over prior year. And I'm curious, in a recent conversation I had with the director of community cares, they're saying they're seeing an increase in the number of elderly facing homelessness. Is that not what you're seeing necessarily?
Yes, there is an increase. However, we have been level funded. However, there is supposed to be an increase in HAP. There is a $5 million increase in the governor's budget. However, we're not sure how much we're going to see in that. So there is a possibility that we could amend this contract and give them additional funding.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 15, I will call on Jamie Reiber to discuss the contracts for children and youth. Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning. The first is a linkage agreement between Community Services Group in Cumberland County, just allowing us to share information with our like clients. The second one is Family Care Services Incorporated. They provide foster care services for our agency. They are removing 2 of their levels of care from their contract for this year. The 2 remaining levels increase between 5.45 and 5.97%. A large chunk of that increase is actually an increase going to the foster parents that will help them support the child with food, transportation, clothing, things like that. Next one is Lisa Harrison with the Youth Advocacy Program Advisory Program. They have seen a 28.3% increase in referrals and a need for services from juveniles through juvenile probation. So the increase in the rate of 3.5% is for increases in gas and projects and supervising their services with juvenile probation. Next one is Perseus House Incorporated. They provide shelter and residential services for us. They increased their rates between 6.67% and 11.71%. They are indicating that their employee benefits and trying to retain staffing is one of their largest needs. There's also been an increase in their cost of living as far as providing food, transportation, and clothing for the youth that stay in their facilities and that they serve. The next one is for the Bear Foundation. They provide foster care services and transportation services for us. Their rates all increased right around 3% with the exception of their transportation service. That did increase 12.5%. They are again giving their foster parents a 2.5% increase in their daily per diem that's going to go towards the cost of care for the kids in their home. And then the transportation increased obviously due to the inflation in gas prices and the need for traveling. Watts Home for Youth is a new provider for us for this year. It's a group home and we are excited to have them in our options. They are well within their state approved maximum amount, and they are going to provide group home services for girls. The last one is the YWCA. We provide funding to them to support their rape crisis program. We did increase their funding for this fiscal year to a maximum amount of $7,000. And when they have met that, they are meeting that much earlier each year, so we did increase their budget for this coming fiscal year about 3%. Are there any questions?
I'll move for approval. The contract is outlined.
I second. It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 16, I will call on Ryan Simon to discuss the contracts for drug and alcohol. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, commissioners. My first one is for Fire Tree. They are asking for increases on 2 of their rates. For the Conewago Pottsville 3.5 level of care, they're asking for a 6% increase. For their Conewago Snyder 3.7 withdrawal management, they're asking for a 12% increase. I asked them about that and they said that they have increases to their client-oriented staff's salaries and benefits. And then they also noted that their insurances, their casualty auto and umbrella business insurances increased around 30%. So those were the reasons for those increases. Next is Malvern. They have 2 different locations that we contract with. Their Malvern Institute They're asking for a 5% increase on their 3.7 withdrawal management, 6% increases on their 3.5, 3.5 enhanced, and 3.7 enhanced rates. At their Willow Grove location, they're asking for 3% increase on their 3.7 withdrawal management, 7% increase on their 3.5, 3% on their 3.5 enhanced, and 2% on their 3.7 level of care. Any questions?
To approve.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 17, I'll call on Annie Straight to discuss the contract addendum for MHIDD. Good morning, Annie.
Good morning, everyone. So the contract that I have to seek approval for is an amendment to the Connections contract for the Emergency Behavioral Health Walk-in Center. The amendment is to add an additional $1 million from Health Choices reinvestment dollars to the construction work. There were funds that weren't used from other prior fiscal years, and the need is there to be able to support the full construction project for Connections. So this is an amendment for $1 million from 4.5 to 5.5. We are operating really as the pass-through for the resources. The funds are coming from CABHC. The state has to approve moving the dollars, which has already occurred. So this is just an addition to the overall contract, because with this Tri-County project, Cumberland County is managing the dollars for the entire project. Do you have questions for me? I know this is a little unusual.
I get that it's a pass-through, but where did they not account for $1 million in construction costs?
It wasn't Connections.
Oh,
it wasn't.
No.
Yeah, well, no, it was
building it. Do I understand that we have to make this adjustment because the project is now $1 million more expensive than it was originally anticipated to be?
No, I think we did the contracts before we had all of the proposals in for how much the construction work would cost, as well as then we were also reviewing the grant, the first grant we received, the Community Mental Health Services block grant dollars of 13 million plus. There were some things that could be funded under the construction using those dollars, but only life safety things. So we're relying on the project managers, the architects, the construction folks to help us know what specifically those things are. Sprinkler systems, those kinds of things. So okay. In essence, what happens is the funds that can't be expended under the $13 million grant are being covered by the Health Choices reinvestment dollars.
Okay, thank you.
Annie, I have one question. Now, Health Choices is a unique animal, and it's always kind of baffled me a little bit, being a regional pool. So my question is pretty simple, but I won't be surprised if the answer is not. So these dollars that are being allocated now are being allocated by Cumberland County. Does that in any way cannibalize the Health Choices dollars available to us for anything else?
No, it does not.
Okay.
Under the state contract, the Health Choices program is permitted to use only a small portion of funds for reinvestment, and that's 3%. So 3% of the overall contract, and it's not just for Cumberland County, it literally is for Cumberland, Perry, Dauphin, Lebanon, Lancaster. And there is a work group that convenes whenever there are those dollars available to us. In fact, just last week, we had one of those work group meetings. And the 5 counties appoint people to basically work through multiple proposals through a brainstorming session. But sometimes those proposals, even though they've been approved by the state, for whatever reason, can't get off the ground, or the provider chooses not to do whatever it was that we were wanting them to do. So then the funds are
are left. And so that's ultimately where these dollars are coming from. And the need is there, and we believe it will help strengthen the work that's being accomplished. So I think it was a good decision.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll move for approval.
I'll second. It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you all.
Moving on to agenda item 18, I will call on Elizabeth Grant to discuss the contract addendum for planning. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning, everyone. The addendum that we're seeking approval for today is with Lancaster Farmland Trust. And the purpose of the contract is for agricultural outreach, technical assistance, conservation planning, and agricultural BMP design. And we're requesting a decrease in the contract of $17,427.25. And the decrease will allow us to reallocate a portion of this contract to other contractors, excuse me, which can meet the grant, the requirements of our grant award in terms of its timeline and scope. So we're just we're requesting the decrease to reallocate those funds. And then we're requesting an increase in the timeline of the contract through December 31st of 2024 in order to provide more time to complete the conservation planning for our preserved farms.
Any questions for Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, did the organization indicate that they were not going to be able to complete things on your timeline? Have you been dissatisfied with that? Okay.
Yeah, so no, this is actually a subcontractor working with Lancaster Farmland Trust. We've been really happy with all of our work with Lancaster Farmland Trust. They're getting overwhelmed with work, and they just really couldn't meet our timeline for design and engineering for the ag BMPs that we need to have constructed this year.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Elizabeth at this time?
I will move to approve.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Moving on to agenda item 19, I will call on Travis Shank and Trevor Bay, who have been patiently waiting their turns.
Good morning, Commissioners. I come before you this morning for approval to apply for this GAP grant. This grant is projected to be $15,000. And just to give you more information, the Bureau of Justice, in conjunction with ICE and the Department of Homeland Security, this grant will assist with the CO salaries cost for incarcerating undocumented criminal aliens who have been convicted of at least one felony or 2 misdemeanors, and they have been served 4 consecutive days within the jail and during the reporting period. And just that number, it was 65 this reporting period.
Okay. Thank you.
Trevor, you can discuss the second item as well.
Good morning, everyone. Cumberland County President would like to request an addendum to the COVID-19 budget. Effectively, we'd like to move $30,000 from the equipment line to the supplies and operating expense line. We came under budget on our Clorox sprayers by about 80%. So we'd really like to reallocate some of those funds to some other things before that grant term expires.
Great. I have no questions. Anyone else have questions of the warden or deputy?
I don't have any questions, but Warden and Trevor, both of you have done phenomenal work on grants. And so I remember sitting down with you and doing the work on the COVID-19 mitigation grant. And it was so well thought out. And so it's good to see you come back, Trevor, and say, hey, we came under budget and we'd like to reallocate the money. So thank you. Thank you both.
We've had significant help. I have asked Stephanie Phillips and Miss Finke probably a question every day.
The correct answer is thank you.
Thank you.
Great. If there aren't any other questions, someone like to make a motion, please?
I'll move for approval.
And I second. It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank
We
you.
will say.
Thank you. All right.
Moving on to agenda item 20, then I will call on Justin Miller to discuss a grant application for recycling waste. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning. So these are the standard DEP forms that require your signature for our June household hazardous waste collection event. First one is called the Record of Operations Report. Tells DEP the various types of waste that we collected in their corresponding weights. Grand total was 29,405 pounds, dominated by paint once again, and we also had 322 customers. The second form is the actual application for reimbursement. The total eligible costs for the June event were $29,394.82. We collected $15,268.49 from residents, which makes us eligible for $14,126.33 grant money.
Any questions for Justin?
None from me. Someone like to make a motion?
I will move to approve.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is a contract for the Register of Wills and Clerk of Orphans Court, and Lisa is at a conference, so she has provided me some information about the contract, and I'll be discussing it on her behalf. So the contract with GovOS is a contract regarding having items scanned in their office. They currently have marriage records from 1939 through 1975, as well as 94 through the present in their case management software system. They are scanned and indexed so they can easily search electronically, which saves time in their office and for customers. The records from 1976 through 1994 are currently only in the TIFF, which is a picture format. They are not indexed or searchable, and this contract will convert those files to the PDF-A, which allows them to be indexed and loaded into their case management software system that they currently use. Funding for this project is through their office automation funds and will not be coming out of the general fund. Do you have any questions?
None from me.
I'll move for approval.
Second. It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And with that, I will turn the meeting back over to Stacy. Thanks, Angela. So that takes us then to agenda item 22, which is Commissioner's Liaison Reports. And Commissioner Meador, I'll start with you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's been a busy couple of weeks since we were at last here. Commissioner Fasci and I attended, along with staff from the Veterans Affairs Office, who are just doing a great job, by the way. I will put a plug in for them. And we toured the Veterans Village, which is kind of known as the tiny home village in Harrisburg. And it's a very impressive program, and very much enjoyed spending the afternoon, I guess, walking through that and getting the rundown on it. I think it will be immensely helpful to veterans in need, homeless veterans within Cumberland County. Even though it's situated in Dauphin County, they actively work with veterans from our county. Commissioner Eichelberger and I attended the CADIC Summer Tourism event where they unveiled the new logo. An informational meeting was held with representatives from the DCED board with the full board here, and that was wonderful meeting. We are basically considering potential support for long-term planning initiatives of this board, which DCED may be able to help us with. And I had the privilege of welcoming the International Fellows class of the Army War College, and we had some wonderful questions elicited from folks from other countries under very different political systems. And it's always an interesting event. We held 2 department information sessions, and we are just about done. I believe we have 1 or 2 more, Desiree. One of the most significant being the courts. It's this board's desire to engage very, very fully with the courts in planning for the future, as we really need to be doing. Commissioner Fasci and I attended the CAPCOG meeting. I toured the Carlisle Men's and Women's Shelter that's provided by Community Cares and learned more about their programs. Got to meet the coordinated entry individual that is funded and working to make that housing easier for folks. And yesterday in the sweltering heat, I attended the Paul Walters Memorial Park dedication in Silver Spring Township. And boy, you talk about pooling resources from all over the place to make a project happen. That's going to be really impactful for that community and provide great space. And pickleball courts, if everybody is interested in pickleball. There was no Ag Board meeting held this month. We did hold the Cumberland County Commission for Women meeting. And I am seeing more structure and form and intent from that group than I've seen in a long time. They're doing a great job. They had Nancy Chavez, who was a prior member, come in and talk to the group about some thoughts that she was sharing for their involvement within the community. And they reported on yoga in the park. It was successful. And they are hosting 2 events. September 5th from 6 to 8, they will be hosting a childcare town hall at the Upper Island Municipal Building. It's the hope that they will take the information learned from that and turn it into a white paper, which we may want to include in some of our planning, as childcare is a huge issue for in families and for people's ability to work, quite frankly. So hopefully we will be able to use that in some of our planning. September 10th, they are offering a QPR training at a place to be determined. That is the suicide prevention training. To anyone, it would be welcome. We will post that on our website. And they're trying to figure out a way to support the junior women's commission for high school age girls, and it may end up being accomplished through the Girl Scouts, but I commend them for wanting to try and support young women into becoming active as they get older. And I attended the Cumberland County Planning Commission meeting just this morning. And again, I know we say it here so many times, but what a team of excellent folks. I mean, I think Cumberland County is so lucky to have quite frankly, the volunteers on the Planning Commission board and our team of employees that just do an amazing job. They reviewed the Monroe Township zoning ordinance that was updated. It was essentially 3 years of work. And our staff put a lot of time and energy into making that happen. There were some really wonderful lessons learned. Monroe did a great job with outreach in the community, and their zoning really reflects some changes. It's much more focused on preservation and retaining agriculture. They did update their table, to their use table to include solar and short-term rental. And I think that well, I know that Kirk has indicated that is becoming more popular. They're seeing more, Steve also reported, they're seeing more plans wanting to include solar as a provision within their ordinance, and just the wording around that. And many of the townships are using the template that was provided by our planning department. So again, great work. They approved actually 2 blighted properties, one in Mechanicsburg and one in New Cumberland moving forward. Michaela was there from the Redevelopment Authority to present those. Additionally, they approved some changes to rezoning for North Newton and North Middleton. The comprehensive plan update, Kirk sent it back for some final changes in design. And so they will be getting that in August. I'm not exactly sure when we will receive our presentation on that, but it will be within this year. Steve again reviewed a whole host of plans that they are providing input on across the county. So again, great work by that group and the board and all that they're doing out there. That's it for me.
Commissioner Fauci.
So good morning, everyone. So I'll start with the big news from yesterday. I believe all 3 of us were invited to the press conference regarding the $500 million of federal funding that is coming to the region for the replacement of the 83 bridge. This is the largest federal grant that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has ever seen. And you know, the prior board, we engaged with many of our municipalities to bring a lawsuit against the Commonwealth to prevent the tolling. This new bridge will not be tolled. So $500 million from the federal government. The rest of the money to build a new bridge is going to come from the motor license fund. This is a tremendous, tremendous development for this region. And the amount of work that went into this was unbelievable. So Secretary Buttigieg was there yesterday, Governor Shapiro, Senator Casey, Wanda Williams was held in right there on the river. She was there, represented the city very well. And then there were some construction union reps there. And you know, one of the things that we talked about on the way out was that, you know, local people should be building this bridge. And so how do we get local people to, you know, to build this bridge? It makes perfect sense to put our local people at work building a bridge. And it gives me a sense of comfort to know that we would have, you know, excellent people from this area working on that bridge. So that was the big thing from yesterday.
Commissioner, thank you for going and representing Cumberland County to that event. I was sweating in Silver Spring while they happened to be at the same time while you were there, but thank you for going and representing.
We were both gonna go to Silver Spring, and then, you know, this event they come in kind of very last minute. There's a lot of work that happens to pull them off. The Secret Service are involved, the local police are involved, and so, no, thank you. And yes, we were both sweating, So that brings me to, the Board of Commissioners, I know that we have received letters about some development that's going on in West Penn and a concern about the Big Spring watershed. I met with a member of the Big Spring Watershed Association, and I did an introduction with that group and the developer so that they can have a conversation about what is going on, because there's some serious concerns there about pollution of that watershed. So I'm hopeful that there can be good conversations about that, and that you know, the two sides can hear each other out. I will say we can't have polluted water. You know, we can't have polluted drinking water. I know our conservation district will do all of the work that it needs to do to review those development plans for DEP. So that also gives me a level of comfort that we have such good people reviewing those plans.
And on that note, Kirk Stoner did share that letter with the planning board. At this time, there's no action for them to take. However, it was confirmed that the application is now deemed complete by our folks, and so they will begin review of that. So.
Okay. All right. So I would remind you to use the Cumberland County Library System. We did not have a meeting this month. I was like ready to go, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we don't have a meeting.
I did that with Ag at 7:30 in the morning. Yeah.
So in our library system, you know, any of our libraries are cooling centers, like they're just such great places. There's so many great things going on with the library system. The Western Cog met on July 8th. And Laura Brown and Vince DiFilippo from Silver Spring Township, former Commissioner Vince DiFilippo, they gave a presentation regarding the Silver Spring Township ballot referendum in 2013 that was approved by 60% of the residents. And this referendum imposed a 0.1% increase in the earned income tax, and that money is dedicated to preserving land. So they gave a nice presentation on that. The Western Cog noted that some townships are realizing that the Cumberland County Farmland Preservation Program might not be enough in terms of the space that they want to preserve, green space and farmland. So anyway, any municipality interested in that in the Western Cog or anywhere else could reach out to Laura and Vince and Silver Spring Township on that. So Josh Reynolds from Representative Glime's office was there, and he talked about House Bill 2393, keeping farms and communities safe by managing residual food processing waste. It was introduced, but the Farm Bureau came out against the regulatory aspects of the bill. So maybe that bill will be reintroduced in the fall, but right now that will not be moving forward. Interestingly, earlier this week, Conservation reached out to me to let me know that a constituent wanted to know who the commissioner was on the conservation board. That is me, and is so unhappy about the FPRs in his neighborhood and what it is doing to the way he lives, and to his children, and wanted to know what the county could do about it. And so we just have no authority over that, but we certainly need the state to move on a bill that protects our residents as well as our farmers. We've got to come to some kind of consensus on things. Nancy Bull from the 13th district mentioned that Representative John Joyce will be voting yes to pass the SAVE Act, and this is very important for our Bureau of Elections to be aware of. And I'm sure they already are. The act will require individuals to have proof of citizenship before they are allowed to register to vote. So just something that's spinning out there in the ethosphere and that we should be aware of. Our municipalities, of course, are doing their summer road work at the Western Cog. They are incredibly busy, and they're another great group. I say this over and over again. They know how to work together. They know how to help each other out. They know how to conserve resources and energy. They just do such a nice job. July 11th, the LEPC met, the Local Emergency Planning Committee. So I'm going to remind you that the LEPC Summit is coming up on Wednesday, October 30th. It will be at AHAC, and the theme is Whole Community, So You Think You're Prepared. This was the shortest LEPC meeting I've ever been to because Team 200, our Special Hazards Operation Team, went to Franklin County for an acid spill with a red vapor cloud. That was a toxic cloud. It was a mixture of nitric and phosphoric acid. There were 17 people hospitalized and 2 went to the ICU. So that's where our people were. That's the whole point of the Hazards Operation Team, and the LEPC is responding to those kinds of things. So we have really unbelievable people that go out and do these things. Robert Kaufman is with SHOT. Mike Taylor Griffiths, Matthew Kendall, just and a slew of volunteers. And they're the people that keep us safe. And I don't know that we think about that all the time, that something like that could happen and we need to be protected. Finally, the Drug and Alcohol Commission met on July 11th, and they changed the way this meeting happens, and they front loaded with our partners, our providers, and the providers gave their updates first. And I thought that was really great. Those meetings, they happen every 2 months. There's a lot of information to go through, but hearing from those providers on the really excellent work they're doing is so important, and they are very passionate about what they do. So I did bring a couple of things with me just to make sure everyone is aware of this. So DEA, the Philadelphia Field Division Intelligence Program, is really highlighting drug threats based on forensic laboratory analysis reported in the DEA's National Forensic Laboratory Information System. And so what's important about that, and our own forensic lab sees drugs every day. They analyze those drugs and the composition of the drugs. And we know that every drug is full of fentanyl. Fentanyl just kills people. Everything is laced with fentanyl. They're discovering new compounds in street drugs that are more deadly. And so, there's our lab, our forensic lab, working to help to keep people safe. It really is such an amazing, they're intertwined. And that's a good thing. The county has a lot of good things going on in terms of keeping people safe. They call them fentanyl cocktails or co-reported drugs, and they are found in all top street drugs. So that is something that we've really got to be thinking about. Methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, it's all in there. There's another report on legitimate pharmaceuticals versus fake fentanyl pills. So if you're on the street, picking up what you think is a prescription drug, it's a fake, and it could be full of fentanyl. So it's right. I know, Desiree. It's kind of I know. It's unbelievable, right? That's going on.
They speak another language. Yes.
What they're involved in.
It is another language. There was one other thing that I wanted to highlight. It's the Strengthening Families Program for parents and youth ages 10 to 14. So the location will be the Carlisle Family YMCA. It's every Thursday from October 10th to November 21st. You can email Cumberland Perry, Drug and Alcohol at cumberlandcountypa.gov. There's a flyer. I'm sure we could get that. I'm sure we could push this out. But this supports youth in resisting negative peer pressure. It improves family communication. It helps youth do better in school. This program is free. It is limited to youth ages 10 to 14 and their parents or caregivers. And free childcare is provided to children under the age of 10, and there's a free family meal provided. So this is such a great resource for families and kids 10 to 14. So wanted to let you know about that. And I think that's it. I think that's plenty. It's been busy.
Yes, it has been really busy. Commissioner Eichelberger.
Very briefly, the Affordable Housing Trust meeting this week was canceled. It's unfortunate. I did meet this morning with Scott Shulin, and both with him already in regards to some business proposals they have that would help preserve and improve the housing stock that's available for affordable housing. He's asked for some help on that front with discussion on affordable housing. And since the meeting was canceled, I'll be reaching out to them, and I'll keep you apprised of, you know, if there's a constructive role we can play in that or not. But I will say, you know, that's another example of the excellence of partners in the community that we have here. Scott's first-rate individual, and he's, you know, not just meeting with us with a handout. He, as you know, he had a very well thought out proposal, very long-term oriented, and we're very fortunate to have partners like that helping us address some of these issues in our backyard. So I'll be following through with that this week, trying to move that ball forward sooner rather than later. So trust board doesn't meet again till October, I believe. So we'll see what we can do to expedite that. On MHIDD, of course, a lot happening there. I'll just breeze through the thing. Our advisory board meeting is today. I plan to be there. So obviously the big item on the agenda is the state's budget, which of course is now approved, but they are waiting for some detail on how that allocation's been made, the allocation structure. Not anticipating any significant alteration to that, but we'll be anxious to receive the details on that, of course. So human services plan development, of course, goes across all of our human services departments. They're all working on that under deadline. And our folks at MHIDD are finalizing their portion. Just as a reminder, the plan that's ultimately put together has to be posted for 2 weeks to receive public comment. They've already scheduled August 12, 19, and 21 as public hearings for that component of it. We'll be receiving more information on that in the near future. They are soliciting input from the advisory board members to speak to those issues because, of course, those folks have some firsthand knowledge, life experience in some cases on those issues. So their input is being heavily sought as part of the public input phase of that. The public testimony will be welcome, of course, at those hearings. That's 3 to 5 minutes. They're asking for a written copy on that as well. Obviously, we want more on that once the plan is unveiled here for public, but those hearings play an important part in ensuring that the plan is focused on the true needs, and that will help expedite the adoption there and move us toward approvals on vital components of the Human Services Development Plan. And the MHIDD folks are very much on top of that. The other issues, and I'm reading off the mental health report that was provided yesterday to all advisory committee members. These are the topics that will be discussed today among the committee members. So let's see, I broached at the last meeting about licensing concerns among the providers. That's going to continue to be part of the dialogue that's driven by a number of different factors, and our folks are very actively engaged with the providers, trying to determine where we can lend a hand on that so that we don't lose providers at a time when their role is more important than ever. So we'll have hopefully more and more positive things to report on that going forward. I think all of you are aware of the upcoming summit in October that's being convened by the AOPC, Administrative Offices of Pennsylvania Courts. October 28 and 29, they are hosting a summit, and our own Andy Straight is going to be partnering with Dauphin County's director in facilitating a discussion on that. And they've asked for commissioners to be involved. I signed up for that. And they are seeking a meeting probably within the next 2 weeks of the participating commissioners to ensure that everybody's kind of on the same page as to what's going to be discussed as part of that agenda, so that we remain focused going forward. So Perry County and Dauphin County are going to be part of that meeting as well. So Audrey's been very helpful. She's not here, but she's been very helpful trying to establish a time period that we can have a productive meeting on that. So thanks to her. We had some discussion earlier under contracts regarding the Regional Crisis Walk-in Center connections. The commercial provider there was in town this week as promised. I'm sorry, that was 2 weeks ago. And they held a number of meetings, including the Chiefs of Police Association, our 911 staff, Holy Spirit Crisis, Dauphin County Crisis, SOS folks. So preparations are well underway on that, and discussions are proceeding so that this is thoroughly prepared for, and that it has the best chance of possible being a successful introduction to crisis amelioration in the county, which of course we're seeing those numbers spike, and we did receive some updated numbers that will be discussed today on the crisis numbers. So I've reported before on the long-term structured residence program, LTSR, and the new proposal for another facility. There are proposals coming in for the development of that facility. They are due July 22, right around the corner. And this will go to the committee for review, recommendations come to the board of commissioners, then for input and eventual approval. The regional work group has met and responded to questions from the possible contractors on that. So that's moving forward in a very responsible fashion. And I do have the crisis numbers. If anybody would like to share those, I can do that. QPR, once again, there's a training scheduled in August, I believe Commissioner Nieder referred to. That's the only one scheduled so far for August. To date, QPR is, and that's question persuasion for our suicide prevention training. 121 individuals have participated in that training so far this year. So that's 121 more opportunities we have to connect the right people, the right information in the midst of dire situations. So we should be grateful for that and continue to see progress on that. Very encouraging. On the IDD side, some of the same things. The topic will be the allocation of the new budget and the multi-year growth strategy that's been outlined in the governor's budget. So we're expecting several good things coming out of that. Increased waiver capacity, we've already seen some of that. Increased rates for those. Improved access to sign language services also designated as a priority, so that's moving forward. The inside word, I guess you would call it, is that ID is potentially receiving $278 million in new funding. They haven't seen that officially or the breakdown of that, but that's kind of the word they've received tentatively. So looking forward to discussion on that today as well. Also, the agency is moving more aggressively into performance-based contracting, the goal there being to align the payment rates for residential providers with the quality of outcomes and to increase the capacity for individuals with complex needs. We're going to learn more about that. So obviously, the more efficiently we can use the resources available, the further we can reach limited dollars with the significant demands that we're seeing. So again, human services plan, stretching across all those agencies. IDD has their section done and they've already submitted it. The intake specialist is working on 21 new referrals for intellectual disabilities and autism services. And that's just for July. So obviously need there now being much better met. Continue to receive a high number of referrals for early intervention services. That's for the preschool youth to identify potential learning challenges at a phase when they can do the most good. Cumberland Perry EI and Dolphin EI have been collaborating to host monthly lunch and learn trainings for the EI staff, and Sue reports that those trainings have been very well attended. So obviously we're going to have high hopes for that. On recycling, which I will admit ate up a significant time here recently, we're looking to do a smart transition of the yard waste recycling, and that's a continually evolving situation. I did attend the meeting of the municipalities last Friday. I think there is a significant amount of energy congealing around, coalescing around this idea of a replacement authority that would be a municipal authority. A lot of questions surrounding that. We'd like to see our folks provide as much support to make that happen as possible, to give it the best chance possible of succeeding if it's viable. So that continues to be an area where I think we're going to be engaged with the municipalities and hopefully come to, if not an ideal resolution, at least a workable resolution that's forward-looking and tackles the real problem here. So also the meeting on Monday night, which I was in attendance at, Justin reported that we have seen continued bounce back in the electronics recycling volume that we are handling. As you know, volume is important to us maintaining the financial viability of that program. Our people bringing electronics have to pay a certain amount, and we're facing competition, obviously, from the Goodwill initiative that's underway that currently is collecting electronics no fee, and that's creating a raft of questions that need to be answered in regards to sustainability of their effort, as well as sustainability of our efforts. So we are in discussion with them. There's been considerable attention regarding a possible partnership there. That needs to be vetted carefully. There's no concrete action toward that right now, but the authority members are very engaged in that, and staffs are engaged in that. So the only other thing I'll report, and I don't want to go into too much detail on it, I think I mentioned it already, is the idea of a recycling facility for the county is something we've been working on for a while. And the construction bids that have come in are significantly over. And I mean significantly over. So that does not appear to be viable to move forward unless there's another revenue source identified or a reallocation somewhere that frees up a significant sum of money. I don't know that they want that number released right now. So yeah, they did mention that they may be making an approach to the commissioners for ideas. So I think we all know what that means, but so we should be ready for a request or at least a question regarding what role the county could play in filling that gap. So a little forethought to that might be worthwhile. There may be other sources other than just our coffers, which, as we all know, are not free flowing right now. So, so just forewarned us for we'll be approached by that, I believe.
I hope Katie Zimmerman is listening because she could be looking for a grant.
I believe that Kirk has been in contact with her as well in this regard. So
I also wonder, Gary, if it will be something that we just need to consider as a part of the whole facility plan, because the facility or need there, room for it.
And that's been discussed as well. And of course, the electronics recycling has created a great deal of uncertainty over its future. The yard waste has created a great deal of uncertainty over its sustainability and its future. So there may need to be some rethinking from time to time on exactly what we're expecting out of recycling. And they've got their work cut out for them. And there'll be a lot more discussion on that, which we will be hearing on. And Kirk will be keeping you up to date. Justin will be keeping you up to date. I'll do my best to keep you up to date. So a lot of things happening in the recycling world. That's just the world we live in right now. On aging, I received no updates from aging. I know their hands are full too with the human services plan. The board is meeting tomorrow. I'm planning to be there, so we'll see if there's anything in particular. I think the last thing was the echo housing that was discussed. I'm not aware of any movement on that at all. Thanks to both of you for covering the CAPCOG meeting. That is my assignment, but how that also conflicts directly with the recycling. My plan has always been to alternate the two because recycling only infrequently has items of urgency. Right now, they obviously do. So I'm not been able to attend CAPCOG, but being double booked on that is, I think, manageable situation. But right now, it was good to have representation. So thanks to both of you for being there.
I agree. I think it's good that we, when we all can, to Western COG or CAPCOG participate. So.
And that's really everything I have for now. Details on it. So.
Well, only question I had, and I didn't ask Annie, is the crisis walk-in center still on track for the original planned opening time? Do you know?
Everything I've heard is that it is. I've not had a chance. I will ask her today to make sure that that's confirmed, but everything seems to be tracking. So there's nothing in her report about it tracking that I saw.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Commissioner. That takes us to agenda item 23, and I'd like to report that executive sessions were held on July 9, 2024 at 10:30 a.m. and on July 11th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. both regarding personnel. And I'll ask if any other business needs to come before the board today. Hearing none and seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.